Hello, everyone. Pastor Frank here. Look at what's happening in our world today is extremely important. It's important because the events that we are seeing unfold before us in the news is actually fulfillment of Bible prophecy. For example, in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3, the Lord revealed to us the following. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people, not some, all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. So this prophecy is telling us that Israel, and specifically what's going on in Jerusalem, well, where's Jerusalem? The Jews are in Israel, in Jerusalem. That the world is going to be coming against, all of the people of the world will be coming against Israel. And what we're seeing in the last few years are the stepping stones to seeing this prophecy fulfilled. We're not there yet. I believe that this prophecy will be completely fulfilled during the tribulation period when everyone around this planet will be centered on going after the Jews in Jerusalem. Now, back in 2017, the Jewish Voice had an article, Jerusalem, the Burdensome Stone. It came out on January 13th of 2017. It says, when the people criticize Zionists, they mean Jews. And that was a reference, as you can see here, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In the waning moments of 2016, President Obama, Secretary of State John Kerry spent 1 hour and 13 minutes in an angry denouncement of the settlements in the West Bank in a major policy speech. However, it was the division of Jerusalem in the UN resolution that drove the stake into the heart of the Jewish people. Jerusalem is the epicenter of this war, not the settlements, and it's this way now, today. This is one of the reasons why Hamas attacked Israel here in October of 2023. It's because the Jews have been increasing in numbers going up to the Temple Mount. So it goes on to say the settlements, or more accurately, the Jewish communities in Judah and Samaria, are a head fake distraction from the overarching goal of every anti-Semitic nation to carve up the holy city of Jerusalem. And that is how it is, as I said, right now here in October of 2023. So it's really not about the settlements. It is the main focus, Jerusalem and that Temple Mount. Now, there was another article that came out to show you what I was talking about on July 19th of 2021 from the Jerusalem Post. Jews visiting Temple Mount is not assault on Al-Aqsa analysts. And you can see here one of the people who are protesting against Jews going up, guess what? Hamas. I'm going to scroll down, not read the whole article, just want to get to the point where it's discussing the Hamas role. Take a look at this. Israel also has the right to expect that 1,700 Jews going to the Temple Mount not be falsely framed as an assault on Al-Aqsa, because when framed in this manner, it ignites passion and invites violence. Those who do frame it in this manner want to do just that. And look who is doing that. Hamas, for starters. As Hamas spokesman Hassan Qassam said, this behavior is a provocation to the settlements of the Arabs and Muslims around the world and disrespect to all international calls condemning these incursions. And guess what? Who's now in October supporting the Hamas? Iran. And Iran is another one of those people who are antagonists when they see Jews going up to the Temple Mount. So the focus is on Jerusalem, and little by little the world is going in the direction of the Zechariah 12:3 prophecy. Frank DeMora here. connecting the dots again between the current events and the warnings laid out for us in the Bible concerning the last days. For the last couple of days, I've been giving you warnings about the Temple Mount area, what to expect, not just in the next couple of days, but what to expect down the road, especially when we know what the scriptures have to say. And if you look at my post that I did on the May 3rd, I put up that red flag. I'm going to keep the red flag up for as long as it takes, because I know the outcome. Eventually what's going to happen is that the Jews who are trying to get up to the Temple Mount with full access to the Temple Mount, and that are hindered by the Palestinians and those that are running the day-to-day activities on the Temple Mount, the status quo is definitely going to change. And one of the things that can change it, as I pointed out in my last videos, could be a war, a conflict with Israel over the Temple Mount, or some kind of peace agreement where the person who makes an agreement would obviously give a directive that the Jews can go up and pray just like the Muslims. So we know what the outcome is. We just don't know the actual developments that will lead us there. But we're watching developments, and trust me, they're unfolding in these last days. So there is definitely a burdensome stone for anybody that deals with Israel. I gave you that scripture, Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3. You can stop the video and read that. And there's other scriptures here about the temple that's going to be built that our Lord told us in the scriptures. You'll see the picture of what this temple is going to look like. The Jews are ready to go. All they have to do is get the okay to start building that temple. And of course, the status quo has to change. Now, on the 3rd of May and on the 4th, as I issued that warning, I told you that there was going to be more conflicts, more rioting that would take place on the Temple Mount on Thursday. And the reason why is because the Jews were going to go up there on Independence Day and celebrate their Independence Day on the Temple Mount. And of course, there was almost 1,000 Jews who were able to go up on the Temple Mount, and sure enough, there was rioting again that had to be squashed by the Israeli police. So the conflict, we're seeing the birth pangs of it, and it's going to only get worse. Now, we see that Israel's enemies, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, the Palestinians, because they're seeing these Jews go up to the Temple Mount, they have sent out their people to go out and do acts of violence. And you'll see the headline here. I'm going to play it. It's very short, but you'll understand the reason why they're doing these attacks is because of what's going on in the Temple Mount. They're afraid the status quo is going to change. Listen to this report.
Ben-Gvir at scene of attack, absolute lawlessness, this is a government of blood. Otzma Yehudit chairman, in a normal country, the Air Force would now be dropping missiles on the house of Yahya Sinwar. Otzma Yehudit chairman MK Itamar Ben-Gvir arrived on Thursday evening at the scene of the terrorist attack in the city of Elad, in which 3 people were murdered. I came here to show solidarity, express pain, to embrace the residents here in Elad, but also to say in the simplest possible manner, enough with this government of blood. This government causes complete lawlessness, be it in Beersheba, in Tel Aviv, in Bnei Brak, or today in Elad. He called for leaders of the Islamic movement to be arrested for inciting to terrorism. Why aren't they going out on an operation of a targeted elimination of all the terrorists? In a normal country, an Air Force flyover would now be dropping missiles on the house of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who called for attacks with weapons and axes, and killing him. This is how you cut off terrorism.
So because of the Temple Mount, the Jews going up there, more hostilities, more lawlessness. And of course, lawlessness is one of those last day signs that Jesus warned about. So we're looking at a host of different prophecies, scenarios that are developing. We'll have to keep our eyes on Jerusalem and specifically what goes on that Temple Mount, because sooner or later The status quo is definitely going to change. The Jews will have full access up there on that Temple Mount to pray and to build their temple and to begin the sacrifices as the prophecy warns it would. Now please, you can go over to my website. You'll see it right there. Go over there. My book is there for you to read. I am updating it to May 5th. But you will see all the prophecies and how these prophecies are being fulfilled, and especially as we watch what's going on in Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is going to play a very major role in the last days generation, which you and I are in. And we know that because Israel has already been born and they're already 74 years old. And so we know that the redemption is drawing nigh because we're seeing all of these things taking place all at the same time. So please, if you want to leave a comment, I'm going to leave my email address at my post today, fjdemora@gmail.com. If you have any questions, you can email me there too. God bless everyone. Keep your eyes awake, looking at what's going on around you, because we're watching the last days unfold right before our eyes. God bless. Now, what else is taking place of great importance? Those of you who have been coming to my prophecy site, which you see above there, prophecyman.com, you have seen this picture, this photo that I put up, listing the people who are going to be involved in a war against Israel, and it's called the Psalm 83 War. And what I have done many, many times over these many years when I have warned you, please watch the news, because you're going to see events that are going to lead up to the fulfillment of this prophecy. So what I have done is put from 1 to 10 the modern names of the people who the Lord gives to us down here in this prophecy. For example, we see that the tents of Edom are today the Palestinians and southern Jordanians. And if you move down here, you'll see Lebanon, you'll see Egypt, you'll see, take notice of this one because this one's really important, the Gaza Strip with Hamas and the Palestinians. And that leads me to what's taking place right now in Israel. Because on Saturday, when these people from the Gaza Strip, the Hamas, and then a couple days later, Hezbollah, which you see right here in the number 5, Jabil of the Old Testament, their name, and it is in Lebanon, northern Lebanon, sent in rockets, and they've been attacking Israel as well from the north. So we have people who are listed in the Psalm 83 war actually attacking Israel now, to the point where Israel had to call a war. We are at war with Israel. Now, what I wanted to show you is a video that I recorded from Fox News. And it is a recording that we see Fox News interviewing this Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister. And he is talking about this war that has been declared against the Hamas, Israel's enemies, and he's sharing what he believes to be true. And in the end part of this interview, he talks about Iran. Now, Iran is actually not in the Psalm 83 war, but Iran has its proxy people in the very places like the Gaza Strip, like the West Bank, in Lebanon, in Hezbollah. And the minister talks about how Iran has been in meetings with the very people that are listed in the Psalm 83 war, where he is saying that Iran is in these meetings pushing for many nations to attack Israel all at the same time. So I'm going to play this video for you. Please watch the video. Now, it came out a little hazy. I couldn't record it straight from the news media because I have an ad blocker on. So I did the best I can for you, but I want you to see this because it's extremely important. When you have the person Iran, the leader of Iran, sending in millions upon millions of dollars into these proxy nations for what? For the destruction of the nation of Israel, and Iran telling the world that this is their plan, that they want to destroy the nation of Israel. And they're using people like the Palestinians and the Hamas and the Hezbollah in the north to hopefully destroy Israel for Iran. Now, Israel will not be defeated. They're going to take a hit, but they won't be defeated. And we know that because Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, we see Israel again in another war with not the nations that border Israel, but the nations, the peripheral nations outside the bordering nations of Israel. Like, for example, Turkey, Morocco, Tunisia, Ethiopia, Libya, and so forth. And it happens, this attack happens, the Ezekiel 38 attack will happen when there's no walls, gates, or bars. And the prophecy tells us that people are living in security, the Israelis. So something has to happen to allow the Israelis to feel safe enough to knock down the walls, to rip out those gates and the bars that are there to keep the Palestinians out, to keep the Israelis safe. So we know that Israel is not going to lose this war, the Psalm 83 war, because they're still there in Israel in the same place when this Ezekiel chapter 38 war takes place. So watch this video. It's only about 4 minutes. Then I'll come back.
Let's bring in Ron Dermer. Ron is the Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs. He is live in Tel Aviv, Israel. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good to be with you, Steve.
All right, so you guys have cut off the water, cut off the electricity, cut off all the fuel, a complete blockade of everything going into Gaza. Tell us why.
Well, first of all, as you've seen, and I really want to thank you and your network for trying to take a few minutes to explain all the moving parts that you have in the Middle East. It's important to educate people on the threats that Israel faces from Iran and all its proxies. So the first thing is I want to thank you for that. It's a horrific attack. As I listened to your previous segment with one of your soldiers, and I think, Nancy, you compared it to our 9/11. It's as horrific as that day was, and I speak as somebody born and raised in America who loves America, and it was one of the worst days of my adult life, probably the worst day. This is right next to it. As being a minister in the Israeli government, we're a country of 9 million people. You have a population of about 350 million, so you're 40 times our size. When Israel loses more than 800 people in a single day, and that number's going to rise, it may pass even 1,000. You're talking about like 40,000 Americans. That's about 10 9/11s. That's what we had from this vicious, savage, barbaric terror organization. They did things that we have not seen, even in this really difficult region of the Middle East. We haven't seen it since ISIS, where people go on these trucks, killers with guns, mowing innocent people, women, children. So right now, and taking them hostage, elderly hostage, a mother with their children. I'm sure your viewers have seen all these pictures. Yeah. What we have to do is we have to make sure that the forces of civilization defeat the forces of barbarism. And we're going to do whatever we have to do to send such a message, not just to Hamas, not just to the terror organizations in Gaza, not just to Hezbollah, to every terror organization around the world, that you are not going to achieve any of your goals. You're going to be utterly defeated because of what you did. And I think that's not only important for Israel's national security, it's important for America's national security. Remember, we are the little Satan, you're the great Satan. But we're going to have to take care of what we have to take care of here, and I hope that the unequivocal support, and I'm grateful for that support that has happened in the first 24, 48 hours, I hope it continues when Israel's not just a victim, but when Israel's a victor. That's when the support is going to matter as we go through these very difficult days ahead. It'll be critical for Israel, and I think it's going to be critical for America as well. should have very, very strong action also against Iran. You should snap back the UN Security Council sanctions against Iran. Every effort should be made to enforce oil sanctions against Iran, because we know a lot of things about Iran. We know that they met, they had coordinated meetings, they send them money, they send them weapons, and we know they're acting right now, Brian, they're acting right now in order to make sure Israel is going to be attacked on many fronts.
Now, when you do a search, do your own search, you'll find out that already we're starting to see different places around the world who are holding rallies for the Hamas people who just went in and, with their barbaric actions, killed women, children, grandmothers, grandfathers, soldiers, just innocent people who were out there not hurting anybody, minding their own business, until the terrorists came swooping down into them. I did a quick Islamic rallies for Hamas worldwide, and I pulled up some of these videos which you could watch. You could do the same thing. And the reason why I did this, to show you that the Zechariah chapter 12 verse 3 prophecy is right before us. Everybody coming against the Jews in the last days. And here's another one from the New York Post, how there's this disgusting rally. You see him holding up a swastika. This is in the United States, where they're supporting the Hamas terror attack on Israel. And as the years go on, you're going to see even more people coming against the Jews, because God's word never fails. And this is why we're seeing these things right now, because we are in the last days. We're well on our way in the last days. And there isn't no other generation who have seen all of these birth-paying signs that Jesus gave to us all at the same time.